Rev up your engines!
An electric convertible for $14,000? Yes, they exist. Here it is. It's a Chinese, of course, electric-made EV called the Wuling Mini EV Cabrio, like the Volkswagen Cabrio because it's a ragtop. Now, that's like 10 grand cheaper than the cheapest Miata, so it is the world's cheapest EV. Now, unfortunately, you can't buy it in the United States yet. They only sell them in China. And it even has a power folding roof for $14,000. Now, it's not a race car. It's got a whopping 40 horsepower with a single electric motor and a tiny 26.5 kilowatt-hour battery, which isn't that big. But then he gets a small car. And the guy tried it out. He went to China, tried it out. He said, yeah, it's incredibly cheap. It's a really crappy little car, but he liked it because it's cute. You want a little bitty electric car with a very small amount of range with a tiny battery like that, right? People push babies in baby carriages. You could ride around this little electric top to top. Kind of looks like a baby carriage. It's so small. And the top comes down just like a baby carriage. So who knows? Maybe one day you'll see Wuling little electric convertibles riding around the United States. You can see them in China. Maybe they'll bring them over here. I don't know how they get them to pass crash testing. No, that'd be kind of that's the problem. A lot of these mini cars, they will not pass crash testing. So that's one of the reasons that you see those. They have those cute little cars in Japan and Asia, little tiny ones. You bring them over here and then you find out, oh, gee, you can't drive them in my state because they won't meet any of the specs. They won't let me register them. So, you know, it's going in China now. Maybe one day over here, but there it is. The smallest, cheapest EV electric convertible that you can buy. Well, here's an interesting one. A new 1500 Ram Charger. It's going to have a V6 engine, but the V6 engine is not connected to the wheels. And they have a drive shaft on it, right? It's just like a locomotive. That engine is going to run a generator that makes electricity that charges a battery that runs the vehicle. Now, in some situations, it will run the generator directly to the wheels, but mainly it goes through the batteries. Now, interesting enough, this is not a plug-in hybrid. You can't plug it in. It only generates electricity by the motor, just like most locomotives have a big old diesel motor. Runs giant generators, then that sends electricity to the wheels to drive the train. So the new Ram Charger is going to be like a diesel locomotive. Now this will be different than the Ram fully EV truck that's a battery electric truck that runs just on a battery and you plug it in. This generates its own electricity. I guess they decided, well, we're going to go a different hybrid route. Instead of having gasoline or diesel engine that runs stuff and then the hybrid is extra, this is just a complete system of engine, charging battery, runs car. The engine is not connected to the wheel. So you can buy a Dodge Ram Charger. The engine isn't even connected to the wheels anymore. It's all electronic. Now, of course, this is new technology. It is Ram, which of course Fiat, Stellantis, European company owns it. So I wouldn't want to be a guinea pig myself and buy one of these things. Rams have enough problems with their electronics as it is. You make something like that, I think I'd hold on quite a while before I'd buy one myself. Well, you've been following the self-driving car stuff. Well, now Waymo, one that's in California, right? Cruise shut it down. Waymo's hadn't shut it down yet, but they're mad because they've been rebuffed by the San Francisco International Airport. They won't let them go there, right? Well, there's guerrilla warfare against us. Well, you know, that kind of reminds me of the Terminator, right? Where the humans were the guerrilla warfare and the robots are taking over the world. Maybe this is the beginning of the end. So I say, humans of the earth, fight Waymo, fight Cruise, before the robots take over from us and we're living in caves underground. People ask me, why don't they just give up on the self-driving stuff? You know why? Because they put too much money. They put billions into it. They refuse to admit they screwed up. So they keep pushing it, pushing it, pushing it. We need robot taxis like we need a hole in the head. Taxi drivers get jobs, make a living. You get to talk to people when you go to a city, learn about the city, right? Do you really want a machine driving you around? And as it's been proven over and over again, you can't have machines and humans driving on the same road. From Houston to Dallas, they're making a big 18-wheeler electric self-driving deal. Some of them are going to be electric, some of them are still diesel, but they're self-driving trucks, right? But it is its own road lane going from Houston to Dallas. These self-driving trucks are not going to be on the same highway as us. Thank goodness. I said for years, that's the only way to go. And of course, the problem with that is, who's going to build all the roads, right? I mean, it costs a fortune. It costs usually over $1 million a mile to build highways, and they're going to build all these highways for these trucks that drive themselves? I don't think so, you know? I really don't think so. Trains had to build their own tracks, right? Well, the self-driving trucks will have to build their own roads. Maybe they'll get robots to do it for them, like in the Terminator. The robots can build themselves, and they can build their own roads, too, yeah? Let's get out of fantasy land here. Thank goodness San Francisco had the intelligence of not allowing them at the San Francisco airport. Let's think. Really crowded places. Last thing you want are self-driving taxis in a really crowded place to make an even bigger mess of the transportation. Mess driving around there, and robot taxis, it'd be an even bigger mess. And now they're not letting them do that. So, that's all I gotta say. Maybe if, say, you can have robot taxis if you build your own roads for them. That's what the trains used to do. They built their own train tracks, right? So, so much for the naysayers. So we're running out of oil. What are you going to run out of oil? We are exporting more oil than ever. More oil super tankers than ever headed to the U.S. to load up for crude to export. A lot of it's going to Europe. All this oil, we're pumping it out. Instead of everybody said, well, the Arabs are going to take over. We get our oil from there. Oh, the Arabs control everything. Guess what? We now have super tankers, and they're not coming from Saudi Arabia here full. They're coming empty, and they're filling them up in Texas, and they're shipping them to Europe. The more things change, the more they stay the same. If you ask anybody, Europe floated to victory on a sea of Texas oil. Do a little history, you'll see that's the truth. We sent them so much oil, right? They probably never paid us for it, but the guys in Texas got paid for their oil. They didn't give it, right? Well, we paid for it as taxpayers. The oil went to Europe, and now it's happening again. Well, this time it's because of an embargo on Russia. You think that, oh, gee, we're all going to be driving electric cars soon? Ha, ha, ha. You're living in fantasy land, people. There is so much energy in this stuff that's needed. That's the only way you can really do it. Even the Germans and Europeans are realizing, gee, we can't switch to this green energy. There's not enough of it out there, right? Especially now that winter's coming on again. Garrison Keillor, the comedian, he was funny. He was in Minnesota or wherever, right? And he said, we can talk the green all we want, but when it's 15 degrees below, I want gasoline for my BMW and heat for my house. I don't care where it comes from. Well, here's some more horse manure coming from the Biden administration. White House senior advisor John Podesta said Denmark's Ørsted is still committed to developing offshore wind farms in the United States, despite the company's cancellation of 2 projects on the coast of Jersey. Committed, all right. Give them enough money, they'll do anything, right? They canceled it. And they're supposed to pay New Jersey $300 million, which they don't want to pay now. Ørsted wants out of the $300 million forfeiture for scrap New Jersey offshore wind farms. They signed a deal and said, if we don't do this, we owe you $300 million. Now they're saying we're not going to do it, but they don't want to pay the $300 million. What good is a business contract if it's in there in black and white? You got to pay us $300 million if this doesn't work out. You don't build them. And oh, well, we changed our mind, but they're still committed now. The Biden administration and their horse manure says Ørsted is still committed. Yeah, they're committed not to pay Jersey the $300 million that they owe them from a contract from them voiding it because they realized they can't build it and make any money, so they're just sort of out of it. Well, I can't believe the horse manure that comes out of both the politicians and these stupid electric wind farm companies, right? And of course, we all know what they want. More money. As I said years ago, wind farms are a joke. They do not create enough electricity. You cannot depend on them. You can use them in certain situations, right? Let's say you're in Antarctica, right? Well, there's no power lines there, right? So you could put up winds, make electricity. But really, if you ever been to Antarctica, I've had friends who spent months down there, scientists. All that stuff's run by diesel generators, baby. They want something that's dependable. The wind turbine breaks in the middle of the winter. They all freeze to death. No, they got diesel. The boats come in, the ships bring them diesel. They got diesel generators, and it all runs on diesel, right? Because they need a lot of power in a cold place, right? So why these idiots think that these wind farms are the future? They're out of their minds. Any fool can see that. We've had power plants, and they work perfectly fine, right? But all of a sudden, oh, we don't like those anymore. We're going to use the wind. Oh, it's green. No, it isn't. It doesn't work. It's not particularly green. And now the companies that are building are trying to get out of the deals that they signed in black and white paper. Well, we don't want to pay that $300 million. Where? Well, too bad. Interesting enough, the same company, Ørsted, wrote off $3 billion for tax losses for this crap that they're into, right? They wrote off $3 billion, but they don't want to pay the $300 million fine. Well, of course not, you know? And they're all in bed with these politicians. We'll see what these politicians do now, you know? So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.